Hey everyone, welcome back to Everyday English Unlocked, the podcast where you improve your English simply by listening to real, natural conversations. I'm Edward.
And I'm Victoria. We're so happy you're here with us today.
So today, we're talking about something that I think pretty much everyone can relate to: dating and relationships.
Ooh, yes. This is such a good topic. We're going to be chatting about our favourite date ideas, some of the challenges people face when they're dating, things like nerves, dating apps, figuring out if someone actually likes you.
And we'll be sharing our own thoughts and experiences too, since, well, we're both single, so we can definitely relate.
Very true. And then at the end, we'll pull out some really useful English phrases that came up naturally in our conversation, so make sure you stick around for that bit.
Alright, let's get into it. So Victoria, I want to start with something fun. What is your ideal first date? Like, if someone asked you out, what would you actually want to do?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay, so I think for a first date, I'd want something pretty low-key. Not too formal, not too much pressure. Like, dinner at a fancy restaurant sounds nice in theory, but honestly, it can feel a bit intense when you've just met someone. You're sitting across from each other. It's very quiet, very serious. I find that a bit awkward. So I think I'd prefer something like a walk in the park. Maybe grab a coffee somewhere along the way. It's casual. It's easy. There's no pressure to just sit and stare at each other the whole time. What about you then, Edward? What's your ideal first date?
Okay, so I actually really like the idea of cooking together. Like either cooking at someone's place or one of those cooking class evenings where you go and learn to make a dish together with a group.
Oh, that's so cute, actually.
Right? Because first of all, you're doing something together, which is great, and then at the end, you get to eat whatever you made, so it's like a built-in dinner as well. 2 birds, 1 stone.
I like that. Very efficient. Although I have to say, cooking with someone I barely know would make me a little nervous. I'd be worried about burning something or making a mess.
But that's part of the fun. If something goes wrong, you laugh about it together. And honestly, that kind of moment can actually help you hit it off with someone, when you both just laugh at the same thing.
That's true, yeah? A shared laugh goes a long way. Okay, so speaking of nerves, let's talk about first date nerves, because I think that is such a real thing. Do you get nervous before a first date, Edward?
Honestly? Yes. Every single time. I always have this moment right before. Like, I'm about to walk in, or I'm waiting for them to arrive, and I just have massive butterflies in my stomach. It's like, why am I nervous? I chose to do this.
Oh, I completely understand that. The butterflies are so real. I think it's actually a good sign though, right? It means you care. If you felt absolutely nothing, that might be a problem. Okay, so one thing I find helps with nerves is having a good conversation starter ready. Like, something to break the ice when you first sit down together. Do you have a go-to opener?
I usually just ask something like, "So how was your week?" Which is very basic, I know. But it's easy, it's relaxed, and it gets them talking. What about you?
I like to ask something a bit more interesting, like, what's the best thing that happened to you this week? It's similar, but it kind of steers the conversation towards something positive from the start. It puts both of you in a good mood.
Oh, I actually really like that. That's much better than mine. I'm stealing that.
Please do. Okay, so let's talk about one of the big challenges in dating, which I think a lot of people really struggle with, finding common interests. Because sometimes you really like someone, but then you realise you have nothing in common.
Oh, this is such a real thing. And I think it's one of those things that's hard to know before you actually meet someone. Because on paper, or on an app, everything looks great. And then in person, you realise you have absolutely nothing to talk about. I had a date once where the conversation was just really hard work. Like, every topic I brought up just died. And I could tell she felt the same way. It wasn't unpleasant, but there was just no real spark there. Sometimes you just don't have a lot in common, and that's okay.
Right. And I think that's an important thing to accept. Not every date is going to lead somewhere, and that's totally normal. But I do think having some things in common really does make a difference, like shared hobbies, similar values, that kind of thing.
Definitely. Although I also think opposites can attract, right? Like I know couples who are really different, and they work great together because they balance each other out.
That's true. I think it's more about core values than hobbies. Like, if you both love hiking, but one of you wants kids and the other absolutely doesn't, that's a much bigger issue than not watching the same TV shows.
Huh. Yes, very good point. Okay, can we talk about dating apps? Because I feel like that's just such a huge part of modern dating now, and I have a lot of thoughts.
Oh, yes, please. I have thoughts too. Are you pro apps or anti apps?
I'm somewhere in the middle, I think. Like, I think dating apps are genuinely useful because they put you in front of people you'd never meet otherwise. You know, you might swipe right on someone who lives across the city and you'd never have crossed paths in real life. But I also find them a bit exhausting. Like there's so much choice that it almost becomes overwhelming. And I think sometimes people treat it like they're shopping rather than actually trying to connect with someone.
Oh, I totally agree with that. The endless scrolling, the swiping, it can start to feel like a game rather than something meaningful. And honestly, sometimes the chats go on forever and never lead to an actual date, which is frustrating.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, here's something I find really tricky. Figuring out whether someone actually likes you. Like reading the signs. I am terrible at this.
Oh, same. It is so hard to read someone sometimes. Like, they might be laughing at everything you say, but are they laughing because they like you, or just because they're a polite person?
Exactly. You just can't tell. And then you overthink it and analyze every single thing they said for hours afterwards.
Oh yes, I know that feeling very well. What did they mean when they said that? And then your friends have to listen to you go through the whole conversation word by word.
Poor friends. I think the honest answer is communication. Like, at some point, you just have to be open about it. Which is scary, but it's the only real way to know.
I completely agree. And I think communication is just so important in any relationship, not just at the start. So many problems come from people not saying what they actually feel or think.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, last question before we go into our key phrases. Any advice for someone who's nervous about putting themselves out there? Like, someone who wants to start dating but just feels a bit scared.
Ooh, that's a lovely question. I think my honest advice would be, start small. You don't have to dive into a big romantic dinner on day one. Just try something low-key, like a coffee or a quick walk. Keep the pressure off yourself.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I'd say, try to enjoy it. Even a date that doesn't lead anywhere is still an experience, still a story, still something you learned from. Not every date has to be the one.
Exactly. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. So you just have to take that first step and put yourself out there. It gets less scary with time, I promise.
Love it. Okay, let's move on to the key phrases segment, which is one of my favourite parts of the show. So listeners, this is where we go back through the conversation and pick out some really useful English expressions that came up naturally. Let's do it.
First one, to keep things low-key. Edward mentioned this when talking about first date ideas. If something is low-key, it means relaxed, simple, and without too much pressure or fuss. For example, let's keep the first date low-key, just a coffee and a walk.
Next, to hit it off. I used this one when we were talking about sharing a laugh. If you hit it off with someone, it means you immediately get along really well and feel a natural connection. For example, we hit it off straight away. It felt like we'd known each other for years. Number 3, to break the ice. Victoria mentioned having a good conversation starter to break the ice. This phrase means to do or say something to make people feel more comfortable and start a conversation, especially in a new or awkward situation. For example, I asked her about her week to break the ice. And our final phrase, number 4, to put yourself out there. Victoria used this when giving advice to nervous daters. To put yourself out there means to make yourself available and take the risk of meeting new people, even if it feels scary or uncomfortable. For example, dating is nerve-wracking, but you have to put yourself out there if you want to meet someone.
And those are your key phrases for today. 4 really useful expressions you can start using in your own conversation straight away.
That's it for today's episode of Everyday English Unlocked. Thank you so much for listening. We really hope you enjoyed it and picked up some useful language along the way.
If you did enjoy it, please share it with a friend who's learning English. That would mean the world to us. And make sure you come back for the next episode, where we'll be chatting about another everyday topic to help you learn conversational English.
Until next time, I'm Edward.
And I'm Victoria. Take care, keep practicing, and we'll see you next time. Bye!